We talk a lot about human rights and the whole issue about living in a just society. And it's an important thing because what you call human rights, what society expects that everybody should be free to achieve or to get. For example, we say living, not dying, is a human right. In other words, so that if you actually murder somebody, society itself will kill you because you interfered with a human right. It's a human right to marry. But if it's a human right, then what happens if nobody ever is interested in you and nobody wants to marry you? Is it still a human right? Maybe you need a different word for human rights that are not automatic to have. Whereas living may be something that you have to, that can be enforced. There are other things we call rights, but they cannot actually be enforced. So, like the issues of marriage. You know, there are even people who are claiming that sex is a right, and they want even our children in schools taught that sex is a human right. The truth of the matter is, you do not have sex except with a willing partner, and that does not depend on you, it depends on the partner. So I think we have to be careful using the word human rights on things that cannot be enforced. And you know, once you say it's a right, it gives you kind of a freedom to be involved in pornography, in rapes, because after all, you are trying to fulfill your human right. It's important to understand this word, hakietu, human right. On what basis are you going to say that something is a right? I think it will be important for us to check what society are we talking about, because society, for example, FGM, which is the many cultures in Africa enforced on girls, we can say it's a human right for the girls not to be cut. But you see, that it's also, and that's what makes it very difficult. It's also society have a right whether to marry that kind of a girl or not. That's why in the end you have to understand that it is you that has to determine what is right and wrong, not society. Because society can tell you this is a right, but you know it is not a good right. You don't even want to actually enjoy that kind of right. So the subject of right is important, and we need to be very clear as a society that we need to guarantee or at least assure our members of our society, members of our community, that they are free to do this and this and this because human beings need it. But we must ask ourselves is, who is society? Who is our culture? Who determines what's right and wrong? And that's why I come and say we need to come to where we realize God who created Adam and Eve and therefore created humankind is the one who can tell you what is a right and not a right. In the Garden of Eden, God told Adam, you are free, you have a right to eat anything except the tree in the center of the garden. My friend, the devil came and said, he is interfering with your human right. You have a right to every tree. In fact, he knows that particular tree is the best one. If you took something out of it, do you know you will be very wise? You will be just as wise as God. And my friend Adam fell for it. And the rest is history. So let me ask you to be very careful what you call a human right. Because once it becomes a human right, you feel like you are entitled to it. And because you are entitled to it, you move into it. Even when that thing can actually destroy you. You may say it's human right to have sex. Then within no time you have HIV and you are dying. because of your right. You didn't understand the commands of God that make it that you are not allowed to sleep like an animal. You are only supposed to sleep with someone whom you have had a relationship and then have made a commitment. Long-term, we call it a wedding. Long-term commitment with. And that will give you enough time for you to check, do I really want to stay with this person? Do I really trust this person? Now, those things will be sorted out. But if you sleep like a dog anywhere with everybody, and you say it's a human right, it will destroy you. You will be in a lot of trouble. So we need to come to where we start understanding that what we call human rights is best determined by the one who created us and understands us. And don't call a human right because society calls it a human right. Seek from God who created society what is right and wrong. In Deuteronomy chapter 21, we see a few of these things listed. If someone is found slain, lying in a field in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess, and it is not known who the killer was, your elders and judges shall go out and measure the distance from the body to the neighboring towns. Then the elders of the town nearest the body shall take a heifer that has never been worked and has never worn a yoke, and lead it down to a valley that has not been plowed or planted, and where there is a flowing stream. There in the valley they are to break the heifer's neck. The Levitical priest shall step forward, for the Lord your God has chosen them to minister and to pronounce blessings in the name of the Lord, and to decide all cases of disputes and assault. Then all the elders of the town nearest the body shall wash their hands over the heifer whose neck was broken in the valley, and they shall declare, our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eyes see it done. Accept this atonement for your people, Israel, whom you have redeemed, Lord, and do not hold your people guilty of the blood of an innocent person. Then the bloodshed will be atoned for, and you will have purged from yourself the guilt of shedding innocent blood, since you have done what is right in the eyes of the Lord. God wants us to know that life is a right, and nobody is allowed to take away life except as decreed by God. And so if you found a dead body, it's not to be assumed, oh, what an accident. It must be fully investigated. And the town nearest the body are held accountable to investigate until they find out who killed. And then they must punish the killer. Because living is a human right. You cannot allow human beings to die just like that without any consequence management. So they were to go into a ceremony with a heifer whose neck has been broken and declare before God that after their thorough investigation, they have not discovered who killed the person. So God just forgive us all as a people, because we don't know who killed. Of course, if they actually knew, and maybe it's one of the sons of these elders, so he doesn't want him to suffer the consequence, they themselves will end up with a curse. But I think this is a very, very, very good thing to see how important God takes the issue of life. And so whether this is exactly the same, that's why we keep talking about abortion. Abortion is murdering an innocent baby, because many people try to get pregnant, but they can't. God blesses certain people in order to get pregnant. It's a blessing from God. You are not in control of it. God allowed the pregnancy. Okay, you slept with a person. Maybe you should not have slept with, but here you are pregnant. The baby is a different life from you. You are only a carrier. keep telling people that's why we call where the babies are born, we call it a delivery room. To remind the mother, he's only a delivery system. The baby has come from God and is being delivered to the world. And you are part of the delivery system. The baby is not yours. You do not own the baby. So if you actually commit abortion, you are killing another human beings. In Psalms 139, the Bible is telling us that he knew us in our mother's womb. That means we are human beings in our mother's womb. And God says he knew us. So he knows the baby you have killed. And he knows who that person is. And will hold you accountable. So when it's the abortion, these elders cannot say we don't know who killed. Because in abortion, the killer is obvious. And you need to understand clearly, it is certainly a sin that can be forgiven, but you must accept it as a sin. Obviously, if we are talking about the mother dying and in trying to save the mother, the baby dies, that's a different matter altogether. That's not abortion. It is a medical rescue plan that doesn't work because the doctor would be trying to save both, but then one dies and one is saved. The emphasis will not be on the death of the baby, but the mother being saved. But abortion we are talking about is abortion because the mother feels uncomfortable. Oh, the timing was bad. Oh, in other words, the mother can carry the baby to term, and the baby will be born healthy and okay. But because you are uncomfortable, you are not healthy, you are not feeling nice. Why don't you just deliver the baby, then give the baby for adoption, but don't kill the baby? So you cannot kill the baby because you cannot bring up the baby. That will not be a good reason. But here we are discussing about human rights. The baby has a right to life. And anybody who kills the baby is going to be held accountable for doing it. So it's important that you understand that. And the story we have just read emphasizes how seriously God takes it. That if there's a dead body near a village, God will hold the whole village responsible. And so the elders will come together to seek for atonement, for forgiveness, on behalf of the unknown people or person who has killed. Because life is a right. Verse 10 says, when you go to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God delivers them into your hands, and you take captives, if you notice among the captives a beautiful woman and are attracted to her, you may take her as your wife. Bring her into your home and have her shave her head, trim her nails, and put aside the clothes she was wearing when captured. After she has lived in your house and mourned her father and mother for a full month, then you may go to her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. If you are not pleased with her, let her go where she wishes. You must not sell her or treat her as a slave, since you have dishonored her. Here is an enemy. You have captured an enemy. They have a right. And he's saying, if you capture, normally they killed all the men. If you capture a girl and you're interested in her and you sleep with her, then you cannot treat her like a slave. She's a wife. And she gets the right of a wife. If she leaves, she will be free to go anywhere. If you don't continue holding her, she has a right. And here we are talking about the right of a captive woman. Now, if captive women have rights, what about the ones that are born in the land? They have rights. It means you cannot mistreat your wife. She has a right as a wife. And there are certain things that as a wife you need to give her and to do with her. Just like your husband has a right. Certain rights. And the Bible has a lot to say about that. In fact, in the book of Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 7 says, the body of a man belongs to his wife. The body of a woman belongs to her husband. In other words, there are certain rights that have to be dealt with. And this goes up to, it doesn't matter what you discover later about and you don't like her after being with her. No, 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 no. You have held, you have certain marital rights that must be continued when you come together. And divorce, the Malachi writes, I hate divorce. So you cannot marry and then drop without any consequences. And you need to understand this idea that the best thing is, don't be in a hurry to get married. Don't be in a hurry to get married. But if you finally marry, you have entered into a one-way traffic road where even if you want to change direction, you can't. You must go to the next turnoff or roundabout or exit in order to change direction. In between, you have to keep going to the wrong. You already know you are going the wrong direction. You have to keep going. And that's about marriage. You cannot sleep with someone and then dump them. That's what, even if that person was actually a captive, whom you could have killed, but you saved. You did not kill them. Now they are in your home. They belong to you. The other thing I noted there is that although they are captive, they have rights. They must be allowed to mourn their parents. You killed the parents during the war. Now you want to pick her and make her wife without understanding she is human. Even captured people are human. You have to treat them well. And they are being told, for example, allow her for a whole month to mourn her relatives who have actually died in the war. In other words, treating human beings with understanding is a right that every human being should be given. So whether we are talking about your workers, people you have employed, your house servant, or whatever you want to call them, you must treat them with dignity. Human dignity is a right, and everybody must be treated with dignity, including a slave or even somebody captured from war. So it's important to ask yourself, is that something you do? Human dignity, is it something that you offer? Remember, if it's a right to a human being, if you don't accord it, God will hold you accountable for it. In other words, the servant girl may not be able to take you to court. She doesn't have the legal fees to be able to do that. But God, who values human life, is going to hold you accountable for how you have treated your servants, the weaklings, the widows, the orphans, people who may not fight for themselves. It will be important to understand. So there is a right to human dignity, irrespective of poverty or riches, whatever. All human beings have dignity. Even if they are crippled, they still have dignity. Whatever their handicap, physical handicap, they still have dignity. And we must offer it. Verse 15 says, if a man has two wives, and he loves one but not the other, and both bear him sons, but the firstborn is the son of the wife he does not love, when he wills his property to his sons, he must not give the rights of the firstborn to the son of the wife he loves, in preference to his actual firstborn, the son of the wife he does not love. He must acknowledge the son of his unloved wife as the firstborn by giving him a double share of all he has. The son is the first sign of his father's strength. The right of the firstborn belongs to him. These are children have rights. That means the parents have to ensure they enjoy the rights. Now, here we are told that if you're a firstborn, you have another right. You are supposed to, if, for example, the man's property was worth 1 million shillings, it will be divided by the 10 children. That means 100,000 each. But the firstborn is to get double the share. So the firstborn will get 200,000, obviously, because he also becomes the leader of the new family once his father has died. And that is his right. It's so much a right that if you don't give him that right, you as a father will be held accountable by God. But the general right I'm seeing here is the right to treat your children well. whether they are bright or not bright. Sometimes we treat the children that do well in school better than the ones who don't do well in school. We treat the children that are beautiful better than the ones that look ugly. No? All the child needs is to be your son or your daughter. They have certain rights to be treated well. Favoritism is not something expected of any parent. And so you will be asked, how do you treat your children? Do they feel equally loved? Even more importantly is here the wives. And you are treating one wife better than the other. And you say, no. God will protect the wife you don't like so that her son will still get the rights she is supposed to have. You know, you must acknowledge the son of the unloved wife. And it will be very, 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 very important that you understand that if you don't, you will be in trouble with God himself. So, let me ask you as a parent, do you treat all children the same? Do you invest in them according to their needs and according to your ability to meet those needs? Because obviously you can't do better than the resources God has given you. But they need to feel they can't get another father. You are the only father. They can't get another mother. You are the mother. You must treat them in such a way they feel loved and cared for. In other words, once you bring me into the world, I have a right on you. I have a right as a child to be looked after by my parents. And you need to be careful whether you fulfill that right or not as a parent. I'm not asking the children to fight for their rights. I'm asking the parents to give those rights, aware that if they don't give it, your child may not prosecute you, but God himself will hold you accountable. Verse 18 says, if someone has a stubborn and rebellious son who does not obey his father and mother and will not listen to them when they discipline him, his father and mother shall take hold of him and bring him to the elders at the gate of his town. They shall say to the elders, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey us. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of his town are to stone him to death. You must purge the evil from among you. All Israel will hear of it and be afraid. This one is an interesting one. Parents have a right to be respected. Parents have a right to be honored. In fact, it's part of the 10 Commandments. We're looking at these human rights. This is an interesting one. The children who do not, just like earlier we saw the parents have to look after the rights of the children. Now the children are being told they have to look after the right of the husband, of the parents. And the right of the parents are simple. It is respect and honor. Don't ignore them. And here we are learning that if you don't, here it was mandatory. Lack of respecting your parents could lead you to death. But the parents were not the ones who put you to death. There had to be a case. You got before the elders and the judges, and they listen, and I'm sure the son then will get a chance to defend himself. And even he can verify that you really are a rebellious son, disrespectful to your parents. They died. I don't encourage that in the New Testament, because the New Testament is a time of grace. But the rules haven't changed. It is still very important to understand the importance. Parents have a right to be respected. And this right is not subject to the fact that your parents do not look after you. Like in the 10 Commandments, it doesn't say, honor your father and mother who raised you, or honor your father and mother who is good. No. All you need to qualify to be respected and honored is simply to be the father. So, your father may even have quarreled with your mother. They don't see eye to eye. Your mother has her own issues with God. You cannot join your mother to disrespect your father, because he is a father and he fits into the stories of it's part of the command of the 10 Commandments. Even your divorce, the father who divorced your mother must be respected and honored. Even the mother who dumped you and left you in the hands of your father to bring you up as a single father, as a single parent, you still must respect your mother, even if she left you. How she'll be dealt with. It belongs to God. God will deal with her for having abandoned her child. But it will be important to understand that respect and honoring of parents is a right you as a child must give. And that's a big, big subject, how we do each other. Because you see, the family is the smallest unit of society. No wonder God wants it to run well. Because if it runs well, it means it will produce out of that home children that will be good citizens. You know, I call home the Human Development Center. Human beings are developed by homes. And when the home fails to develop good children, society is going to harvest confusion and anarchy. So that's why God is very serious. Children must obey their parents, must honor their parents, because if they do, then they'll have learned the importance of authority. So when they become adults and are dealing with their bosses in their place of work, or they are dealing with pastors in church, or they are dealing with judges and governors, they will respect them. And it's important to understand that that respect is learned at home. And when your children don't learn that respect, you have produced a society, anarchy, and confusion. So it is important as a parent to create boundaries and insist on them being followed as a way of training the child right. That's your responsibility as a parent. It's your responsibility as a child to operate within those boundaries. But we have to be careful. Children, do not treat adults like children. If somebody is over 20, he is more of a relative than a child. So those ones, if they are already in their own home, those are not the ones being brought to the gate to be stoned. The ones being brought to the gate are the ones that are with you and you are disciplining. You can't discipline another adult. So it needs to be understood adult children are on their own. We are only talking about the ones that are young and still dependent upon you. Verse 22 says, if someone guilty of a capital offense is put to death and their body is exposed on a pole, you must not leave the body hanging on the pole overnight. Be sure to bury it that same day, because anyone who is hung on a pole is under God's curse. You must not desecrate the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. Sounds like even a dead body has certain rights. Burying it and getting rid of it, not rather than leaving it wild. And so it's important to understand. And there you are not burying a person, you are burying a body. Once somebody is dead, they are gone. But their body must be buried and not left to hang in the place. So it will be important for you to understand, as we summarize, that it will be critical that you understand right. And these are only a few of the rights that are listed in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 21. What are other rights the rest of the scriptures give? And the question is, do you live within those rights? Do you grant those rights to the people that you live with? That will be very important. Of course, and it is even you have rights. But do not go fighting and killing others because they have not given you rights. Report them to God, who is able to deal with them. He says in Romans chapter 12, he says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So even if your rights have been tampered with, do not become violent about it. Take the matter to God, who is able to deal with the matter and to actually help you out of them. So what are we learning? We are learning that human life is a dignity. So do not kill. Number 2, we are learning that human beings must be given dignity, even if they are captive women. That human right, dignity of human beings is a right that has to actually be given, irrespective of who we are really talking about, whether they are crippled or not. And we are learning that their children have rights to be treated by their parents well. And lastly, parents have rights to be respected by their children, and dead bodies have right of burial.